Serious, forensic investigators of Reddit, what are some of the most disturbing and horrific cases you have worked on? EMT, not my call but my co-workers. Get dispatched for vaginal bleeding. Arrive at the home to find a woman sitting in a pool of blood on her bedroom floor. Transport her to the hospital where the doc examines her. He asks where the baby is. What? He states this woman just had a baby. So they go back to the home with police and search the place. My co-worker looks under the bed and sees a bowling ball bag. Opens the bag and finds the strangled dead baby. Holy shit, that took a turn for the worst. A mildly overweight man had a heart attack and died on his waterbed. It broke and the sun heated the water. This is Arizona by the way, and cooked him like a fucking stew. Can't imagine that room is in any way salvageable. How do you even begin to clean that? Gotta throw the whole house away. I was on the scene of a crash where a drunk mother went off the highway into the central median, which was Basicala ditch. She hit a support column for a bridge and her 2 daughters, 6 and 8, were ejected. The 6-year-old was dead on the scene and the 8-year-old died in the helicopter on way to the hospital. Mom lived, of course. The impact was so hard that I was standing about 300 yards away with the car's battery at my feet. When dad found out, he attempted to attack mom in the hospital. Unfortunately, police were there to clear her to go to jail and stopped the dad. It'd probably do the same thing as the dad. Poor guy. Can't imagine a phone call away half your family was killed by your wife. I'm an expert in work-related incidents, and I'm hired to investigate accidents and incidents for large corporations. 2 children fell down an elevator shaft on a building project. Employee of manufacturer in the pharmaceutical industry got his arm ripped off by a powder centrifuge. Retired person was fatally hit by the coupling of a compressed air hose after the hose broke. I work with fairly low pressure pneumatics, 6-7 bar, daily, and this terrifies me. If you don't mind me asking, what solution did you put in place to stop the accident happening again? Assuming it was just an unfortunate accident. I've had small plastic fittings hit me and it's not nice. Client committed suicide by connecting zip ties around neck and pulling. Frantic scratch marks indicated they regretted the action but could not cut the zip ties due to Sharp's restriction. Sharp's restriction enforced due to recent morbid self-mutilation. Claw marks on neck and lack of oxygen to the brain was the saddest I've ever seen. The inability to say the individual died on their own terms is often the only bright side to any type of suicide I deal with. That regret. I've seen it with people who try to OD on Tylenol or Advil. Once you get to a certain point, you can't reverse the process. You die painfully, and you know you're dying. Not crime scene investigator, but in uni I did crime and investigation, and part of it was reviewing old cases. We were lucky enough to have a talk from the lead investigator on the Myra Hindley and Lan Brady case. During the talk we got to review the official crime scene photos, including ones that, as far as I'm aware, the press nor family had ever seen. On the way in we had anything that we could use to take a photo taken of us to prevent any being leaked online. One was a photo of a half skeleton and half human, as the soil had fully preserved one side of the body. Even though it was just pictures, they are images I wish I'd never have seen, along with some of the sick stories you had about what people had done. It made me never do anything with my degree. Myra Hindley and Lan Brady. Worked a case involving 2 young sisters, 8 and 4. It was actually 13 and 6. If I recall, this was 20 years ago, and their meth head mom and her boyfriend. Mom was convinced her girls were possessed by demons, so she forced them to take baths in bleach. When that didn't work, she started making them drink bleach. The older girl knew enough to immediately throw out the bleach, and she would drag her sister behind the couches or wherever they could in the house to throw it up. Eventually the little daughter couldn't throw it up anymore and died. She then froze the little sister, and proceeded to hack the frozen body into pieces in front of the older sister, and then disposed of the pieces somehow. We were sent in to see if we could find the body. Walking into that house, the smell of bleach was overwhelming, and I can still remember all the bleach stains on the carpet. Edit. For those asking about the sentence, here is a link to the story. Changed age of girls from 8 and 4 to 13 and 6. What happened to the 8-year-old? She survived and went with other family. If I recall, we actually didn't find the younger daughter's body, and we only found out from the FBI investigators what happened to her 6 months later, when the older sister was able to say what happened. As a forensics student, I helped piece together the ripped up diaries of a girlfriend who was supposedly killed by her boyfriend and shoved into a freezer. There was another woman in there too. One of the big freezers with the lift up lid. The police found evidence that the freezer had been off a couple times as the boyfriend ran out of electric too. Why do you say supposedly? Because the bodies were so old they couldn't find the exact cause of death. They are 95% sure it was him. They just need the evidence and the court case to prove it. I studied forensics back during the CSI craze. I noped right out of that program when we reviewed the Dahmer crime photos. We reviewed those in our JA classes. The first day of class, that's what the professor used to see if the kids were prepared for it. Several kids didn't come back later that week. 15-year-old decided to commit suicide on the freeway. It's still not 100% clear if he jumped off the overpass first, but he was reported to be seen on the ground on the freeway by the first person who called it in, who was also the third car to hit him in a matter of minutes. I didn't even have to cut to do the autopsy. We were able to get what we needed through the gaps in his broken spine. This girl from my hometown did something similar a couple years ago. She found out she was second in the class instead of first, so she parked on the side of the highway, covered her eyes, and walked in front of a semi. She lived for a few days afterwards. When she finally died, the semi driver also committed suicide. I had one case where a mentally ill guy killed his ex-wife and was driving around school to school in the city looking for his kids to kill, then kill himself. He didn't know which schools his kids attended, and there are many in the city. My girlfriend is a city school teacher. When I learned this was happening, I called her and told her to lock everything. I've never been so scared in my life. That's horrific. Did he get stopped before he found the kids? Yes. Fortunately for everyone, he was caught in a shootout with the police and, if I remember correctly, the National Guard or SWAT, I don't exactly recall which. He was shot and killed, and thankfully but unfortunately the only casualty was his ex-wife. I do fire investigation, and one that stuck with me was a likely mentally disturbed girl started speaking to God at the dinner table and then that night lit her room on fire with her in it. I think about that one a lot. This one is way crazier than the comments above to me. Not trying to sound like a psychopath, but I understand murder a little bit better than self-immolation. Not caring if you burn is such a minfuck. You're either next level crazy or a hardcore monk. I work in forensic pathology. I'm usually just on the surgical side. However, I live in an extremely rural area, so I regularly alternate between surgical and forensic. I actually love it. One case that absolutely crushes my spirit involved one of my old high school classmates. I saw the results of child abuse on an 11-month-old with stages of healing dating back months. The child's skull looked like pop rocks on the scan. Her husband was the one prosecuted, and she's still free. Her son survived. Somehow, I thought when I was asked to just look that they were absolutely gone. She lost custody of all of her children. I can't for the life of me understand how she gets to walk around and post pictures of her children on Facebook when there's no way she could have been ignorant to the situation. Every case I see with a child hits hard, but this one has stuck with me on a personal, emotional level. Do you know how the child is doing now? I can't speak for the long-term effects, but I do know for a fact they're completely safe. Last week, I had 9 homicides, 4 multiple gunshot wounds, most being 15 shots, 4 suicides, 7 overdoses, 2 decomp cases, 1 covered in black mold, an abused infant, and an accidental shooting of a child. We've had over 200 cases in the coroner's office in 2020 already, well over 40 homicides. They're always bad. Edit. For those asking, I work in the Midwest, but not Chicago, in the county coroner office. Where is this? I would like to avoid it at all costs. The fact that you're still able to get up and go to work every day is miraculous, and I'm sorry you have seen all of that. Guy in Naples, FL cut the throat of all 5 of his children in a bathtub, ran away to his home country and needed to be extradited back to the US. I'm not an investigator, but I figured this had to be up there on one of the most disturbing stories I've heard. This guy was a cook at Miller's Ale House and seemed normal to the people around him. Nope. Estero reporting in. That is fucking horrible.